Good morning, YouTube. In this video, I'm going to show you how to do sentiment analysis on Amazon Comprehend through Python API using BOTO3 package. The plan is to go over what Amazon Comprehend is, then show you how to get API keys and access, and then go over the data requirements and guidelines, and then jump into the code. Use the chapters in YouTube to jump to the place where it's most interesting to you. And the notebook for this project is in GitHub, and the link is in the description. Let's get started. Amazon Comprehend is basically a collection of natural language processing models. So Amazon AWS created those models, they pre-trained them, and these models perform specific tasks. Today, I'm going to talk about sentiment detection model, but they also have other models in there, like entities and topics and others. Some of the models are pre-trained, and some of them pre-trained but customizable. So, for example, document classification model. Sentiment is a type of document classification. However, you can create your own custom model for that, in which case you may customize your documents into, I don't know, invoices versus letters versus something else. And you would have to create a pre-labeled data set for that and retrain our model. Let's go over the process of getting access to Amazon Comprehend. So this is kind of the quick outline, and I have the very helpful Amazon guides in the description. So the process involves you creating an AWS account, which is free for 1 year. After that, you would need to create a user that has appropriate permissions to access Comprehend and S3. So the user is created in the identity and access management part of AWS, where you just, search for IAM or find it in the list of AWS services. You go in there, there is a user menu where you go in and create a new user. And then you can give that user permissions or maybe add them to a group that has certain permissions. After you have created that, you can create and download access keys. These are the keys that you need to configure your access to Comprehend through. So you download those keys, they're just a .csv file, and then you can use command line interface to create environment variables folder, which is basically a .aws folder on your computer in your user folder that has your keys, and that's what's used by AWS to authenticate you. The next thing you have to do is to create a role for your Amazon Comprehend job to access S3. Again, roles are in the identity and access management menu. However, another way, and possibly simpler way to create one, is to schedule an Amazon Comprehend analysis job yourself. Now, you don't need a role if you just want to do real-time analysis, like analyzing one piece of text document or analyzing a batch of up to 25. But if you want to do an asynchronous scheduled job on AWS, then you would need to have S3 access for your job. And then you create a virtual environment in Python and install BOTO3 package. I didn't have any issues with this. Let's talk about Comprehend costs. With the free AWS tier, you get to analyze 50,000 units of text a month, and one unit is about 100 characters. So the example that I'm using, every tweet is about 2 units. I'm analyzing 1,000 tweets, which is not a huge sample, and that is, 2,000 units. That eats up into your limit pretty quickly. Once you've reached your limit, it's $1 per 10,000 units. Go to this link and check the most up-to-date pricing on Amazon Comprehend, because Amazon has changed that in the past or has clarified the explanation quite a bit, that it will completely different. So make sure you do that. Let's talk about data. For this particular project, I'm using Twitter data. Twitter data is popular for sentiment analysis, quick little chunks of data, and you can analyze them very nicely. What you need to remember is that tweets can have breaks within them. And usually what you do, you save all of your tweets into a big document, and then you send it to AWS to analyze as one document per line. That means that sentiment per line of text. However, if you have breaks within the tweets, Amazon will take that as different tweets. So you have to glue it back together and remove the breaks. You export it in the UTF-8 format, and if you're not analyzing tweets but other documents, up to 5,000 bytes can be analyzed for sentiment at once. And in this project, I'm going over the 3 ways to analyze sentiment. 2 of them are real-time and 1 of them is asynchronous, and I've already mentioned that. 1 document at a time, 25 documents at a time, or copying the data into S3 bucket, creating an analysis job that will run kind of on its own, takes about 15 minutes, maybe an hour, and then you get your results back in the S3 bucket that you've specified. Let's jump into the code. I have saved this particular notebook on GitHub, and you can download it and get the code yourself, so you don't have to rely on screenshots and looking at the screen. As far as the packages go, BOTO3 is the package that has both an AS3 client for uploading and downloading data, as well as the Comprehend client. I'm also using pandas to process the data frames. I use JSON and tar file to process the output results from the scheduled analysis job. The data comes from Twitter, and it is 1,000 tweets that have the word Walmart in them. I did save them on my GitHub, so you can get them here. I'm resaving them on my local drive so I can upload them to S3. So I've downloaded the data, and here it is, and let's take a look at a slightly larger set in here. This is the tweet that I analyzed. Let's look at tweet number 100. I'll meet you at Walmart on 32nd Street. That's nice. Let's send that to Comprehend to find out what the sentiment of this particular text is. So we've saved it as a piece of text, and now we're initializing our BOTO3 client with the service name of Comprehend and the region. That's my region. And then we are using the text sentiment function, where text is our text and language is English. So this is pretty simple. Those are the only 2 parameters that you have in here. And this is the output that we get back. So the output has 3 main parts. The first one is the verdict. What is the sentiment? And the answer is neutral. The second one is, what is the sentiment score? This is the breakdown that the model produces, the model that classifies our text into different sentiment buckets. And this is the likelihood of a text being in that bucket. And there's 4 buckets: positive, negative, neutral, and mixed. Now we get all of the metadata, response metadata, where we have the request IDs and all of those things are associated with it. So to get the sentiment scores, That's a small dictionary that we can get out of this variable, and then we can get the verdict, the sentiment itself from here. Let's up it up a notch and go into real-time batch processing. So in our real-time batch, analyze up to 25 documents, same limit of 5,000 bytes each, and we need to submit that as a list. So I sent some of them over here. Let's change it up a little. So what I'm doing here is I'm defining what my text list is, and then I'm sending the sentiment batch into Amazon Comprehend. Again, it's very simple. There is two parameters. One of them is the text list, and the other one is language. So let's take a look at a single record in this particular data set that I sent. Why is everyone and their mom always at Walmart? Don't you all have Zoom meetings to attend or something? That's on the nose. Okay, let's take a look at how the results look like. So the results have two variables. The results list, where we have the same parameters that we had in the sentiment kind of determination, the model scores as well as the verdict, plus another variable, which is the index. And the index, it's the number of the line in that we sent. So this is 0, and it's pretty long, and it's neutral. So, and that is 23. That's our index up to 0 through 24. 0 through 24. And then we have the response metadata also attached to it. So now let's batch process that and turn it into a nice data frame. Here it is. Make it a bit longer. There it is. There's a mixed one, number 3. Let's take a look. I am very curious. Mixed is the least popular type, so it's kind of interesting what we're getting in here. Number 3. My books are not great yet, although each is a little better than the last, But I can go to Walmart and buy worse off the shelf, so they're definitely good enough to sell. Okay, yeah, that's a mixed sentiment. Interesting. So we got our sentiment batch, and I could have just, loaded it up in here, but let's do this. So we're going to parse sentiment into the data frame, and then take the text of the tweet and add them in here. And there it is. So the next step is to do an asynchronous analysis job. For that, we would need to use the S3 buckets, where we upload the data first, then schedule the job, and then download the data, unzip the data, and process the results. So it's quite a bit more involved process than processing either a single piece of text or a whole batch of them, of 25. So I am using the whole file, the 1,000 tweets about Walmart. And I'm specifying where the local file is located. I am specifying the bucket name, and this is important. You want to use your bucket, give your input data and output data different folders within the bucket, or maybe even different buckets, actually, because you don't want to copy your results into the same folder as the input data, because if you were to run an analysis on another, schedule another job within the same folder, and you include the whole folder, then it will think that the results are the input data. We initialize our S3 client in BOTO3 and upload the file into our bucket. The folder name is included in the file name, not in the bucket name. So once we've done it, and I've already done it, so I'm not going to run it, we can specify the parameters for a job. So our job has three types of parameters: the input data parameters and configuration, the output data configuration, and the last one is the role. And the role you can either create in the Identity and Access Management, IAM, in the AWS Management Console, or you can create it by running or scheduling an analytical job and comprehend manually through the web interface. And I actually recommend that you do the later type, because it just creates it seamlessly and you don't have to think twice about how to do it. So once we've done that, we can initialize our comprehend client with the region name and specify the parameters of the sentiment job. And here I need to note that the sentiment and entities detection are very similar, and if you just swap those words, it's going to work just as seamlessly. It's probably true about other types of analysis. It is in fact true. So most of the analysis have the same parameters, so all you have to do is to swap that statement and it would work for you. So we have our input data configuration, which is where the data is and whether we want to take, how we define our unit of analysis, whether we want to take one document per line or one document per file. So the difference is obviously that what is the level with the, you looking at the lines within documents, and you can do lines within multiple documents, not only multiple documents, multiple folders of documents. And then, or you want to do maybe different files, in which case it will just take the whole file, and as long as it's under 5,000 bytes, it will process them and give you the sentiment. The output data configuration, which is basically the folder where you want to put it, and the access role. It also takes, obviously, the language parameter and the job name. I recommend that you do name the job, even though it's an optional parameter, because you don't want to have a list of unnamed analysis job in your Amazon comprehend kind of web interface where you go in to look at the job lists. If they're all unnamed, you're not going to know what's going on in there. So, and what it will return to you is the kind of the status thing, where you have your job number and all of the parameters. You can look up all of the parameters associated with it. So describe sentiment detection job, and you put job ID, and then there's job status and what is the name of the output file. So I've already ran these jobs. That's why when I click on it, it says job status is completed. But it takes a few minutes, so you may want to package it into a function that periodically checks the status and then finishes when it's completed. Now, we can use that job ID to get the S3 URI, or basically the URL for the output file that would include the name of the file. And if you are confused and just want to know what files you have in your bucket, there's a function for that. So to download the data from your bucket, you would need to get the name of the file, of the results file, the folder where you want to put it, and also the S3 name, like the bucket name, and the name of the file itself. And using that procedure, you can download it and then use tarzip to unzip it. So what happens is that in your zipped up file, there is a file called output, and it has no extension. and I would put it into a folder of extracted outputs, and it's basically a temporary file that I'm using. So I extract it there, and then I use JSON to load the results from this particular temporary file. And it's named output for any type of job, so it really makes no sense to kind of name it differently for anything. So and once we get it back, I load it up, and it's 1,000. It's a dictionary with 1,000 results, which is great because we sent 1,000 tweets. Now let's take a look at our result over here and see what the structure of the report is. So the result would have, obviously 1,000 lines, and each one of them would have our sentiment, the verdict, the sentiment score for the model. It would have a variable called line, which is basically the which line in the text. So one is from 0 to 999, and then the file name. And the file name is very helpful if you're processing multiple files. So for example, if you want to have data for Walmart and Kroger and you save them into different files, now you have that information attached to it right there. So to process that document, we're going to use line as our index. And what we're going to see in here, and I'm going to take this index file out. Do this. See how the data isn't sorted correctly? That's because it's an asynchronous job, and it kind of sticks the results once it's processed, and it doesn't have to process from in the same order that the batch does. So now we're going to sort by index, and we're going to have 0 through 999, 1,000 lines in here. And just to make sure that we got our data correctly, we can choose a record, any record, 250, and take a look at it, a more closer look. We're gonna take a look at the text of the tweet, then we're gonna do a real-time processing of it to get the results, and then look up the results for that particular tweet in the output file for the job analysis. So this is a huge shout out to Bellevue Walmart Neighborhood Market for awarding somebody with a grant. Special thanks to store manager. Much appreciated. Wow, it's a positive tweet, 99%. So, yep, that's what we were getting in both of those results. It seems like they've lined up correctly. Now we can save the results file into our hard drive. Obviously, that's important. For further analysis, I prefer analysis in Excel, but if you want to do charting in Python, this is one way of doing this particular. There isn't a lot of things in this particular analysis we can do, but we can do the counts of the different types of sentiment. Nothing to compare to, and I might have a subsequent video on how to do more of kind of fancy analysis. This is just the procedure of working with getting the sentiment. So let's run that, and this is our output for this particular file, the negative, neutral, and positive sentiment, or we can do percentages in here. So for that particular set of Walmart tweets, we had about 11% positive, 57% neutral, and 31% negative. So that is the result. Thank you for watching, and if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions or requests for additional things, leave a comment.